Hey, what's going on everyone, my name is Sean, and in today's video I'm going to be playing a deck inspired by Weevil Underwood. MrZedKay, subscriber to my channel, long time subscriber to my channel, asked me can I make a competitive Weevil deck, and I looked at that message and I thought, what the fuck are you talking about? There is no such thing as the word competitive and Weevil. They have never been uttered in the same sentence. What on earth are you asking me to do? But you thrown down the challenge here, and let's not make a habit of this. I'm not gonna, oh my god, I can see people asking me to make all sorts of shit now. But yes, challenge accepted. I'm gonna build a deck that is not necessarily a pure insect deck, but it's gonna play two really powerful insect cards and combine them together, and you can already see what they are. And if you can, don't spoil it for the viewers. I'm not gonna explain what they are right now. I'll get to it a little bit later on. But yeah, so what to say? Insect monsters are not good, I'm afraid. They are really bad. They I think Insectors are, no, they're not. I think that's Dragoonity. Either Insectors or Dragoonity are getting new support sometime soon this year. I forget which ones, but yeah, they're not very good. We had Battle Wasp come out last year. They're not very good. And then other archetypes, I mean, of course, you got Weevil's Perfectly Ultimate Great Moth. That was never good. Maybe in Duel Links, I think that card could be good, but otherwise, yeah. Insects really are just bad. So, we're going to be using two really cool cards, and they're going to be combined together today, but we'll talk about what they are in a little bit. So, let's talk about what's going on here. Pyromaniac is playing a Super Quantal deck. Super Quantal was, I believe, was the first deck in Legacy of the Duelists when I kind of started to get back into the game, which I saw that had a monster that was over 3000 attack and was unaffected by card effects. And I remember thinking, this card deck is just stupid. What a broken deck. Why would Konami make a deck like this? And I thought the game was so dumb. And I thought, I couldn't believe, I can't even remember what the card is called. It's got such a long name. But yeah, that's their whole point. They're an XE based deck where they're trying to get two monsters of the same level, so go into the XE forms, and then they're kind of like a Power Ranger Sentai theme where they're like the Megazords and they try to combine together in order to do stuff. But they got really cool designs, I will say that, and they had new support since the previous version of Legacy of the Duelists, particularly with those two, with the card in it I banished earlier. I think it's called White Layer, Super Quantal White Layer. I think that was supposed to help that deck out really quite a bit, along with some other cards that they got support. I think that's a new card as well, Alpha and Cool Appeal. I don't know. I've never ever played Quantums. I know they were strong at one point in the game, but particularly the level 3, the blue layer, so, but I really know next to nothing about them. Got cool artwork though, I do like the artwork. So, he's trying to go through his monster's effect, and what I am basically doing here, guys, is I'm using a term in Yu-Gi-Oh! Which we call simplifying the game state. This is one which I actually didn't know until I started playing in real life back in about 2018, and I picked up Trickstars for the first time. And I watched other professional players play the deck, and I would hear people, particularly on commentary, saying he's doing this to simplify the game state, and I didn't know what it meant. But what it now that I've played more competitively, I now understand what it means. And basically, when you're trying to simplify the game state, you're trying to bring both players down to a low resource state so that you can control the game and then take advantage by playing a very high impact card. And so we are using cards like Psyframe Gear Gamma, Skill Drain, Call by the Grave to keep on negating my opponent's monster effects and just shut down his plays. He wants to get two monsters of the same level on the field, but I'm stopping him from searching. I'm stopping him from using his monster effects. Even if he gets his monsters on the field, they're going to be negated by Skill Drain. And this is perfect for what my deck wants to accomplish, because my deck doesn't really care about cards like Skill Drain being on the field, because we're using things like normal monsters in my deck. So yeah, my Pyromaniac went second, and he had started off this turn with 6 cards, and now he's down to 3. One card which is a Link monster that can't do anything. It changes levels, but don't worry, it doesn't do anything. He's Red Layer, it's just a 2000 attack monster at this point, vanilla. doesn't do anything. It does something when it goes to the graveyard, and then he's got one card in his hand. So this is like the perfect situation for what this deck wants to accomplish. And I will explain what this deck does, just I'm trying to keep it as a surprise. If you do know what Giant Ballpark does, don't spoil it for the kids. Giant Ballpark is a bit of a meme, where everybody that plays this deck realizes one thing, and that is nobody ever reads the field spell. Like, people will even read the field spell and still make the mistake of running into the field spell. Because some people just don't understand how it works. But don't worry, you've got me here to explain how this card works. So first of all, we're going to play this really fun card here. This is called Goki. Goki, in my opinion, is the only good insect monster, other than maybe, I don't know, the insect kaijus or Danger Mothman. And how this card works is when it goes to the graveyard, it triggers its effect. So we normal summoned it, and we sent it to the graveyard for a link summon with StandbyMain Almirage. That takes a monster that has 1000 or less attack. Beautiful, easy to do. Goki is now going to trigger, and this is going to let us add a level 4 insect monster from our deck to our hand. Now, as you can see, I am playing a bunch of normal monsters in my deck. You don't have to search a normal monster, but if you do add a normal monster from your deck, Goki allows you to do a little bit more. And first, it's going to allow us to special summon that normal monster to the field, and then it's going to allow us to destroy a monster on the field with attack greater than or equal to the monster we just summoned. So we managed to get rid of his red layer monster because it has greater attack than Neobug does. We will talk about this a little bit when I get into the deck building portion of this video. You don't really actually... Neobug isn't supposed to be in this deck. It's actually supposed to be a card called Insect Knight. I just couldn't be bothered to farm the third copy that I needed for this deck, so I just went with Neobug instead. It kind of accomplishes the same deal, just I'm losing 300 damage off the big OTK, but whatever. It's still fine. So he summons back red layer, summons back green layer. It's fine. Do what you need to do, dude. Your effects are going to be negated anyway. And yeah, that's what Goki does. Goki is a really nice card, and Goki combines perfectly when you use it with the effect of Giant Ballpark. So we're going to use Giant Ballpark now. So I'm using my 0 attack monster to attack into his bigger monster, because I want there to be a damage calculation step. And then during damage calculation, we are able to mitigate that damage and turn it to 0, so I won't take any damage. And instead of taking damage, I can send an insect monster from my deck to the graveyard. Now, one thing you can do is send Goki, and then it will trigger Goki's effect immediately, and then I can destroy a monster on the field. Alternatively, I could do what I'm doing right now, and that is to send a normal monster from my deck to the graveyard, an insect normal monster that is, and then I get to summon as many copies of that monster from my deck, hand, or graveyard to the field. And so I got 3 copies of the Black Power Ranger Super Shiny Sea Squadder to the field, which allows me to now pump a whole bunch of damage and do this lovely little combo here. And this is the point of this deck, and this is what a Giant Ballpark deck does. It's a really fun deck. It's very entertaining to play. You get to play cards like normal monsters, which you don't normally play with, and you get to have this really fun field spell. And because we simplified the game state, anytime you use Giant Ballpark now, I'm going to gain so much card advantage that it's just going to put me ahead of my opponent, and it's going to be very hard for him to come back. Now, we didn't manage to kill him this turn, although we did manage to clear the field of these monsters. So before we end this turn, I'm going to just do an insurance strategy, and I'm going to make a couple of my Xyz monsters here, because they are all level 4, which is really nice, because the rank 4 toolbox is still very powerful. So first of all, we're going to use Neobug and Shiny Black Sea Squadder in order to summon out number, I always forget the number of this card, number 41, Baguska, the Terribly Tired to Peer. Now, Baguska has the effect of any effect monster or any monster that's on the field will be turned to defense, and any monsters that's in defense will have their activated effects negated. So, it's kind of like another form of skill drain, but you may be thinking, why am I summoning these monsters when I have skill drain on the field? Well, I know that my opponent can turn the tide of this battle if he gets rid of my skill drain. And so what I'm doing here is I'm kind of just setting up some insurance. So even if he gets rid of skill drain, I still have Baguska on the field to negate all monster effects on the field, and I still have Abyss Dweller on the field to negate all of his effects in his graveyard. So I'm really not afraid of whatever he draws here. He's only going to have 2 cards to use, and it's very unlikely that both of those cards are going to be able to wipe my whole field. And even if he does wipe my whole field, I still have Ballpark, I still have my face down, I still have my normal ones in my hand. I'm sitting pretty for this game here. But yeah, this deck is really fun to play. I actually really enjoy playing this deck. It's just kind of that rogue element where it just kind of is very surprising to people. There's someone that plays this deck against me in locals, and I always hate playing against him because I just want to test my meta deck. But he brings trolley style decks to that are relatively budget, but still just annoy the fuck out of you at locals. So when you're trying to play your serious meta deck, you're not you end up facing a deck which yeah, it's just really annoying to play against, is what I will say. So Pyromaniac special summons his Super Quantum White Layer. This is not going to make a difference. Even though he summons it in defense, it doesn't matter. This is what I like about this deck. A lot of rogue decks, they often have a flaw on being unable to get over big monsters like this. But as long as I can do battle damage, and as long as I can send Goki to the graveyard, I'm going to be able to destroy that monster. That is assuming I still have normal monsters in my deck, which I do. So, Baguska is a mandatory trigger, so he will go to, he will send one of my cards to the graveyard, so we send a Neobug to the graveyard. And then, during main phase, we're going to normal summon our other Neobug in our hand that we've had in there for a while. And then, I'm going to turn my monsters to attack, and we're going to go to battle phase. So, battle phase is going to happen. We're going to use our weakest attack monster to attack into his big monster. And then damage calculation is about to happen. And because damage calculation is about to happen, Giant Ballpark will trigger. Then Giant Ballpark will send Goki to the graveyard. And then Goki will trigger and will allow us to go and grab our final insect monster that's in our deck. And that is the final copy of Neobug. And then we can summon it to the field, as so. Here it comes. And then once we summon it to the field, I'll be able to destroy a card that's got greater attack than this, which his monster does. So there goes his monster, and now we have a lovely clear field. Oh, Quantum White Layer is going to activate the effect. He gets to add a Quantum monster from his deck to his hand. Sure, that's fine, mate. As long as you can't stop me attacking, I'm really not too worried. And so we attack now directly with Baguska, doing 2100 damage. And then we're going to attack for game with the next monster. And so yeah, this is what the Giant Ballpark deck is. Very simple deck, very straightforward, but fun. And it's fun using insects. So what we're going to do now is we're going to switch over to the deck profile. I want to show you how this deck works in action. So I will see you there in a moment. Right, so let's get into the deck profile here, and I'll show you what my Giant Ballpark, aka Weevil Sucks deck does. So for the starters of this deck, the beautiful thing about Goki and Giant Ballpark is they kind of serve as starters. As soon as you get these cards, they really don't require more setup. You just play them and they're ready to go. Goki activates when it's sent to the graveyard, and if you draw this card early, you can normal summon it and link off with Salamangreat Amaraj just to trigger its effect, as I did in the previous duel. Also, Giant Ballpark is kind of like Mystic Mine in a way. It's a very good field spell where you just need to put it on the field and you're ready to go. You don't need to draw more monsters, you don't need to set up anything else, just put this card on the field and your deck is ready to go. So the rest of the cards really just help us get to these two cards quicker. So we have Mathematician as another way to send our Goki to the graveyard if we don't already draw it, and then we also have Foolish Burial to do the same job. Terraforming and Metaverse to search out Giant Ballpark, and then we have Rescue Rabbit as an alternative way to get normal monsters onto our field, and also Pot of Extravagance as well. You don't really care about your extra deck, so Pot of Extravagance is fine to play this deck. And Rescue Rabbit doesn't clash with things like Skill Drain because it resolves off the field because it banishes for cost. So yeah, it fits nicely into this deck quite as well, but you don't really need it, to be honest with you. Now let's go on to extenders, and as surprisingly to me, even to myself when I was building this deck, there really aren't any extenders you want to play in this deck. Just insect monsters aren't very good, they're very bad, and there's no insect monsters which really kind of just naturally flow with the point of this deck. The deck just does what it wants to do, and then that's it. I suppose you could play things like Dangers if you wanted to, but honestly you really don't need to. Now the only thing which we do want to do with this deck is because we're going through our deck so quickly, we want to put cards back in our deck so we can use them again and again. So Pot of Avarice and Daigusto Emerald are there, so if you have to play the grind game, you can grind a little bit by shuffling your cards back into your deck, and that's where you want them to be in order to trigger their effects again and again. The other extender we also have is Link Spider, and Link Spider and Daigusto Emerald can special summon you non-effect monsters. Link Spider is nice because you can normal summon one of your normal monsters, link it off, and then you can special summon another one from your hand, so you got a link to quite easily, say if you need Nightmare Phoenix. Or Daigusto Emerald can get you one back from the graveyard, so, you know, just few extenders there, but we don't really care about extenders. What we do care about is removal. Because we're playing normal monsters, we don't have effects, so we need to have removal cards. And Goki Pole serves as a removal card because it can allow you to destroy any monster that is bigger than the monster that you special summon for its effect. So Goki Pole works really nicely as a removal for monsters, and we play 3 Cosmic Cyclone because we're playing Pot of Extravagance and we can't just depend on our extra deck in order to get rid of back row cards. But we do have some options in the extra deck too, and we've got 2 Tornado Dragons and 3 Nightmare Phoenix to destroy spells and trap cards on the field. Yeah, just hope you don't banish all of them and need them as well. For defense, we do play a lot of defense, particularly in the form of hand traps, because this is a deck that prefers to go second. And so we are playing 2 copies of Cyframe Gear Gamma and 1 copy of Cyframe Gear Delta. I actually like this ratio to the normal Gamma package. Normally you just play 3 of this and 1 driver, so you can negate monster effects, but I like having 1 Delta and 1 Gamma, so ideally if you draw multiples of the Gamma, you have a choice at least whether you want to negate a spell, which is what Delta does, or you negate a monster effect, which is what Gamma does. So I kind of like this ratio, but if you want to play the normal one, do 3 Gamma, that's what everyone else does. Up to you. Ash is Ash, negate adding to hand or engine starters. Call by the Grave at 3. Giant Ballpark works as defense because it mitigates damage, and also if any of your cards get destroyed by an opponent's card effect, any of your monsters get destroyed by your opponent's card effect and sent to the graveyard, you get to summon a normal monster, normal monster back from your graveyard, so it has a little bit of protection for you there. Imperm, just because it's another hand trap and negates monster effects, and then Metaverse can go into Giant Ballpark, and Skill Drain as just a flat out board affecting kind of card. I'm also playing 2 Abyss Dweller and 1 Baguska in the extra deck, just so as you saw, you've got another way to kind of just like floodgate your opponent using your monsters, so that you can survive. If you have to have an extra turn, you have cards that allow you to just stun your opponent for a turn and then give you extra time to build your resources. And these also are really good if you play Rescue Rabbit, because your monsters will be destroyed in the end phase. If I had more copies, I'd be playing 2 Baguska and 2 Dweller, but I only have the 1, so yeah. And then bombs for this deck, we have loads of bombs. Rescue Rabbit's a bomb, Giant Ballpark's a bomb, your pots are bombs because they allow you to draw, and you should really be able to use these at any time. Pot of Avarice is always live anytime I get it, so it's always really good. And then Skill Drain as well. And then of course, as you saw earlier in the duel, things like Dweller and Baguska can really just mess your opponent over and stop them from playing. You can add other cards, things like the Birus and Dark Ruler no more if you feel free to prefer to add them where you want to, honestly. This deck is not amazing, it's very fun to play, and yeah, it won't go the complete distance, but it can, you know, it can do work. It isn't, say, completely crap, particularly because I built it, so, you know, pat my back there. But nonetheless, yeah, you've just played a whole bunch of hand traps along with your drawing engine, and I probably said this already in the video, but in case I didn't, you ideally want to play either 3 Insect Knights instead of your Neo Bugs, so that you have an alternative to your shiny Black Sea Squatter. Or if you don't want to play Neo Bug and you want to go for something weaker, so that you have a better range of cards that you can destroy through Goki Pole's effect, you might want to go for a weak monster, maybe something with a big defense. I don't know, let's see what's got the biggest defense. There you go, Hercules Beetle. Nah, he's bad, don't worry about it. Ideally go for Insect Knight if you have 3 of those. I've only got 2, so I'm playing Neo Bag instead. But yeah, this is the deck. Weevil sucks, and yeah, thank you guys for tuning into this video. I'll see you soon, take care.